Hi, I'm Aaron Brooker, your area Beck's agronomist covering Michigan and northern Indiana. In this video series, I'll discuss the PFR proven products and practices and success strategies we've identified that I'm confident will work in Michigan. Join me as we bridge the gap and bring PFR to your farm. Hi, today I want to discuss planting date with corn now and discuss how important planting date is versus some other agronomic factors that are going to drive corn yield. So we'll jump right in with this first data set here. We have 23 years of planting date data on corn, and we're looking at the percent of the mean here. So anything above 100% being above the mean, and then anything below 100% being below the mean and where we're losing yield. So we have planting dates from March, the second half of March, all the way out to the second half of June. And what stands out first, obviously, is that the second half of April, that dark green bar there, was our best planting date window. Now, if you look out to the first part of May, we do drop off a little bit, but not too much. So somewhere in that second part of April to the first part of May was our most ideal. Earlier than that, we drop off a little more. Later into the second part of May, we drop off a little more. But also, really key to point out here, when we get into late planting dates, June, whether it's early or late in June, we do see a large tail off here with our yield potential. So that late planting date, we do want to avoid that. But as we think about planting early, we need to think about the agronomics behind that as well. Now, my first reaction with this data, just like we talked about with the soybeans, is that, well, this data was not conducted in Michigan. It was conducted farther south of here. So how do we translate that up to Michigan? And again, I don't want to focus too much on the planting dates here. The key here is that when we were able to plant a little bit earlier, we were able to drive a little bit more yield success. However, as you see, again, with the May planting dates still being positive, planting date might not be the only critical component here. And that's where we need to jump into what drives corn yield. So when it comes to planting, that first step in achieving a good corn yield is going to be getting a uniform, complete stand out of the ground. So we want both all of our plants up. Obviously, we want as many plants up as we can get. With corn, when we miss a plant, we do have some ear flex on those plants, but we can't compensate for missing plants, and especially a lot of missing plants like we're able to with soybeans. Additionally, if we get plants that emerge later than the rest of the stand, if they're too far behind, some of those won't even put an ear on. And oftentimes those can, or they'll put an ear on that's too small. And then oftentimes these plants can just compete for nutrients, light, moisture, and never really be a productive part of the stand and really just be a drain on the system. So as we look at this next data set, it's going to show different days to emerge here. We just tracked days to emerge for a corn stand. We looked at two soil types, a dark soil and then a clay soil with wet, marginal, and good planting conditions. Not surprisingly, when we planted into wet conditions, we saw a really extended emergence period, up to 6 days there in that dark soil. That's definitely going to cause some issues when we think about having those stragglers that are competing with our other plants. As we got to good conditions, we shrunk that all the way down to a 2 or 3 day window, which is what we really want to achieve here. So I'm going to argue with corn, though we don't want to get too late into that planting window, into those June planting dates. I think it's very critical that we're planting into good conditions, even more so than with our soybean crop, to make sure we're getting that uniform stand, as it is that first key component to making sure we're getting good corn yields by the end of the season. Now, one thing that's going to help us make decisions on whether to plant or not is with our FARMserver tool. So FARMserver, we have a new tool in there that's called the Ready2Plant function. Ready2Plant is basically going to help you decide if you should be planting now or a few days from now, or if you should stop planting based on weather conditions, soil conditions, or things like that. So as you'll see here, there's little green dots that say maybe we should plant on this day, and maybe there's red X's that say we should stop. And what that's going to be based on is looking at the forecast, whether it's on that day or the next few days. For instance, if it's a really nice day out and we think we should be planting, If we look at the next few days of the forecast, if there's a continued warm trend, good soil conditions, things like that, then it probably is a good time to plant. However, it could be a nice sunny 70-degree day with good soil conditions, but the next 12 hours is going to bring a rainstorm. It's going to be a cold rain. We're going to see a large temperature swing with cool temperatures in addition to rainfall, things like that that are going to cause us to have a less successful stand. And that's what we want to avoid. So this tool is looking at that forecast, and I highly encourage you to check this out. FARMserver is free. If you're purchasing Beck's corn, you can utilize this and help give you an idea on those planting decisions on whether you should be out in the field at that time or not. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's on FARMserver or with these planting dates or some of the agronomics with corn yields. Feel free to reach out anytime with questions.